Hello and welcome. Good evening, everyone. My name is Gopal Krishna Anand, Associate Editor of Thermal Control Magazine. Thermal Control Magazine's interactive session on digital traffic, cooling efficiency for data centers. The rapid transition to a digital economy has witnessed huge data explosion. Several Indian companies are setting up data centers, which are power intensive, consuming huge power, with cloud technologies and the rapid growth in data leading the way. Working with the right data center optimization technologies has become more critical nowadays. India is fast emerging as a location of choice for data center majors. Infra status to data centers as announced in budget may touch rupees 70,000 crore investment over 10 years. Under the hyperscale data center scheme, the government is targeting investment of rupees 3 lakh crore in the next 5 years, and it's planning to dole out anywhere between 3 to 4% of capital investment as incentive to companies. There are new demands around cloud computing, new generation processors for AI, ML, and data analytics. They will require much power and generate more heat, so cooling efficiency is a major concern. The sole purpose of data center cooling technology is to maintain environmental conditions suitable for IT equipment operations. Moreover, inefficient cooling systems can increase power cost. On this note, today we have come together to witness an engaging interactive session on digital traffic cooling efficiency for data centers. Ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor and privilege for me to introduce you to today's distinguished speakers. Mr. Sitanshu Bacheti, Key Account Manager West, Armacell India Private Limited. Mr. Sandeep Vasant, National Head of Sales and Business Development, India Hyperscale Data Center, Flat Group India Private Limited. Mr. Akshay Dev, Head of Business Development and Applied Business Data Center, Klima Vineta India, a group company of Mitsubishi Electric. I would invite our guest speakers to join us for today's panel discussion on digital traffic cooling efficiency for data centers. Mr. Sandeep, my question to you is, more companies are leveraging data to power their processes and deploying IoT devices for real-time monitoring. Do you think hyperscale data center is the pressing need?
Thanks, Mr. Gopal, for that question. In fact, yes, to answer that question, right to the bullet point, the answer is yes. Because if you look at, let us say, pre-COVID era, we were not talking, yes, there were server rooms, data center, but post-COVID, I think we have shifted our gears, all of us working from home and then now gradually coming to office, all of us connected on the net. We have webinars like such as these, of information being saved on the net. That means more data center. More data center means more hyperscale data center, which is a larger data center per se. To answer your first question, yes, LOT, earlier it was more of a mechanical equipment. Nowadays it is more of an automation. LOT, people are also talking about artificial intelligence. You will have to wait and watch. So to answer your question, yes, hyperscale is what we're looking at, and also the LOT.
Definitely, hyperscale is the need and more investment is needed into that because of increasing data volumes. Mr. Sitanshu, do you think power consumption can be reduced? You are talking about the installations. In case if refrigeration is circulated close to the IT equipment in data centers, can we reduce the power consumption?
The power consumption can be reduced when the refrigerant is pumping very close to that intended use. Also, what happens that even if the refrigerant is being used very close, then also you need to prevent it from heat gain losses, and that is where the power consumption will again pitch in. So when we reduce the distance from the supply to the source, definitely the power consumption gets reduced because the pumping gets reduced.
Thank you very much for providing this, because power consumption has to be controlled in any way because of the increasing cost on HVAC loads and other things. Mr. Akshay, you were talking about the POE optimization. My question is what impact it may have on system if it fluctuates beyond the industry average, either on the lower side or the upper side of the average which you were talking about. It's 1.5 or 1.7.
Yeah, averages are about 1.5. When you have technologies like free cooling, it can go as low as 1.2, like the famous Google data center that we talk about. But when you want to know what impact it can have, it's only a positive. There can be no negative impact on this. So there's a huge positive impact through everyone in the supply chain. So the OEMs give a more efficient equipment, whether it be Pahu or chillers. It is very useful for the data center providers. They can demand from their end customers a higher remuneration in terms of per square foot server rack space. So, the industry is only going to evolve when that happens. So in my opinion, I mean, there is no downside to it. You can never say there is a downside to it. There's only going to be an upside to it, unless someone else has any other point of view.
What are your views about it, Mr. Sitanshu?
Yeah. Anyways, as the fellow panelist has just mentioned, that it is certainly as per the requirement. It's certainly the power use, the usage of the data center capacity is going to go up. So I have the same opinion what fellow panelist Mr. Akshay had just mentioned.
Thank you very much for adding to that. Mr. Sitanshu, there is one question. How we select the thickness of nitrile rubber insulation? Mr. Vivek is asking.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Vivek, for asking that question. For the designing the thermal insulation thickness, what we need the parameters like the what is the ambient temperature and what is the temperature of the cooling medium, be it chill water pipeline or a cooling air, cool air flowing from a duct. And again, after calculating the surface emissivity, this is the factor which I mentioned in the presentation, which is a very important factor to maintain the surface temperature of the insulation above the dew point temperature. This we factor in this particular surface emissivity of the insulation which we are proposing, and with the relative humidity which is present in the environment, in the ambient air. With these factors, we calculate the thickness of the insulation. We arrive at the thickness of the insulation.
Yeah, that's a good point to say about the arriving at the thickness. I think he must have been satisfied with the answer. There is another question in the Q&A box. It says, DC chillers are having any separate certification other than AHRI? Mr. Akshay?
We talk about this internally many times, saying that, it's certified by AHRI and Eurovent. But, I should not, whether this can be a little controversial, but I still want to say that I feel that the AHRI parameters that products are tested at, right, the ambience, the chill water temperature, are nowhere close to what data centers are being designed at. So, while the question is that are there anything? No, there isn't. But there needs to be. The answer is there definitely needs to be, because it's like, in very simple terms, you're testing a product at 7-12 degrees chill water temperature and 35 ambient, which is your AHRI conditions, whereas your data center is operating at 20 degrees chill water temperatures at least, and ambience of minimum, I would say 42, goes up to 50. So to answer your question, no, but there needs to be.
There is always a need for ratings and certifications. What are your views about it, Mr. Sandeep?
Yeah, I think to add on, what happens is, obviously, yes, the solution which goes into a certification and which gets implemented, obviously there are different conditions. But what does a certification gives all of us is the assurance of the solution. So it gives us assurance that yes, we are buying the best product, which is tested, vetted by a third-party agency. Can be HRI, can be Eurovent, we're not getting into integrity of that, but gives us an assurance that it is tested and vetted. I'm sure not only in the chillers, air handling units, PAC which goes into the unit, I'm sure end users would prefer a certification to have that assurance factor.
Yes, that's rightly said. Assurance is very necessary. So Mr. Pramod is asking, for terrace piping of chiller, can we use nitrile rubber insulations with the covering of GC cloth? Mr. Sitanshu?
We for the terrace piping, Even also, in my presentation, if you have seen, there is a picture of that GC nitrile rubber with GC cloth being installed on the chill water piping. So definitely we can use that insulation with the glass cloth application for all weather conditions.
That's good. I think Mr. Pramod, you must have been satisfied with the answer. What is general calculation for DC load per kV?
Just want to add on tech spec regarding to this, like for DC chillers, like what are the parameters to be calculated for the per kilowatt IT load?
If you see, typically, if you want a very thumb rule calculation, I would say about 1.3:1 will be your chiller to IT load. So in simple words, if I had to say it, if suppose this forum, because there is a bunch of Excels, we can do it maybe in a one-on-one discussion. But as a very thumb rule, what we are seeing, it is ranging around 30%.
Okay, yes, I'll get back to you. I have your contact details. We'll shortly meet over there. Yeah,
So
thanks.
thank you. We have one more question from Ms. Nityanand. We want to know, for Indian DCs, are we doing free cooling as per designed intention? How much percentage change is there for actual usage and design free cooling, and how much it affects the PUE?
I'll take the question, Sandeep here. Firstly, thanks Nityanand for that question. I think very good question. Firstly, thank you for that. See, what happens is, as I said in my presentation, the free cooling would be designed basis on the city. So you pull out the ISHRE 8760Rs, and you look at the unit which operates at free cooling DX mode and the mixed mode A. Then you get a perspective of the number of operational hours it operates, 1 month, 2 months, or is it maybe 5 days or 2 or 3 weeks. With that, you kind of conclude how many hours or how many days or months the free cooling comes into picture. What is the free cooling? I can see the second question, you're saying PUV. Yes, with the free cooling, what happens? You eliminate all the mechanical components except for the fan, and obviously your COP would drastically increase from an average 2.5, 3.5 to a 3.6, 3.8 up to a 4, again depending upon the unit. Obviously with higher COP, your PUV also would drop. As per the presentation what I shared, 1.08, 1.2 to 1.3 would be the PUV drop from a global average of 1.6.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sandeep, for answering that. I think he would have been satisfied with that. And thank you very much all. We are nearing to the closing of this session. So may I request Mr. Sitanshu to give a closing statement, please?
Very much one and all to give us an opportunity to just discuss about how thermal insulation impacts the cooling efficiency of a data center, and this is the need of the hour, as we see, as fellow panelists has just discussed, that at the loads on the data center is increasing. So this also gives us a responsibility to change to develop our products as per the changing needs of the data center industry. Thank you once again, Mr. Gopal, for giving this.
Mr. Sitanshu, thank you so much. And again, all of a sudden, one more question, Mr.
Yes.
Pramod want to ask, can you please elaborate regarding the cell deck cooling pad for free cooling?
Yes, on cell deck pad basically is an adiabatic. I think we saw in the presentation, fairly a video which was displayed. That cell deck pad would basically drop the harsh ambient. Let's say if the ambient is around 45 harsh condition, put a cell deck pad, circulation of water, average drop would be 4 to 5 degree delta T. Basically from a 45 it goes to a 40. That 40 would go to the condenser. Thereby you get a saving as well. So good question. Thanks Pramod for the question.
Thank you so much, everyone. It was really a privilege for us to host you experts on this panel, as well as the delegates who logged in from various parts of the country. Thank you so much, and see you again in our next HVAC forum happens in the next month. I request Mr. Gopal to take it forward.
Thank you, Mr. Prasad, and thank you all panelists for exchanging your valuable thoughts on today's topic. We hope you enjoyed the session thoroughly. Before wrapping up today's session, we would like to thank our distinguished panelists, Mr. Akshay Dev, Mr. Sandeep Vasant, and Mr. Sitanshu Pachete. I would also like to thank Mr. Prasad Nair, editor for Thermal Control Magazine, for taking up this initiative. We would like our guests delegates and viewers to stay connected with us on our social media handles. Thermal Control is available on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Additionally, you can also download our app from Google Play and App Store. So with this, we would like to announce the closing of today's session. I request you to stay tuned for more such sessions. Thank you and goodbye.